Yontah pravesha mama vachamimam prashuttam sanjeevayatyakila shaktidhara swadhamna anyamscha hastacharana shravanat vagadim pranam namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. So, thank you for joining us. So, we will continue our exploration of the 9 islands of the heart. So we would like to discover this beautiful island of the heart called Archanam. If you want to take notes, the way it's spelled is Archanam, Archanam. Archanam means to worship. And so we are going to try and explore this island of worship. What does it mean to worship? So let us dive a little deep into this island of the heart called Archanam, which means to worship. And it's a deep, personal discovery, actually. You'll notice that human nature, we have a tendency to idolize. Does anyone here never idolized anyone in their life? Raise your hand. Please raise your hand if you have idolized somebody in your life. And raise your hand if you had a picture of that somebody in your wallet or on your wall. Understand that there is 2 processes of this worship. There is an ascending process and there is a descending process. And the ascending process that we understand is when we create a representation that is something that is a creation of our mind and of, say, a set of group of people or a community. Say, for example, the United States of America. This is an incredible country. And symbolizing this country, there is a flag. Now, in the flag, there is how many colors? 3 colors, red, white, and blue, right? 3 colors. If tomorrow, if the Congress and the senators, they decide they'd like to change the colors up, I have a feeling that if there's a majority, there is a way to change the colors of the flag. But that flag is still a representation of the United States of America. It doesn't change just because we have changed the colors or added a few more stars. So this is the ascending process where we have the opportunity and the proper community connection in order to change certain images. And then this is called the ascending process, where we can actually determine what happens, a group or an individual. And then the descending process is something like, men and women sometimes have a tendency to carry a picture of their loved ones in their wallets or, on them. And that picture, it's a representation of a person. It's not, that picture cannot be changed. For example, if, Nate has a picture of he doesn't have a girlfriend, but if he had a girlfriend, had a picture of his girl in his wallet, and then he's going there to hang out with her, and then he pulls into his wallet and sees a picture of another girl in his wallet. And then his girlfriend would be like, hey, who is this person? The likely exchange of that, of Nate justifying that it's just a picture, is not, I actually truly genuinely care about you and I love you, but it's just a picture of someone else. But actually, when I look at that picture, I think of you. The likelihood of it going well, the descending process is the process where you will notice that in the yoga traditions, we see images of, say, Shiva, Hanuman, Krishna, Ram, all these personalities, the sages. They actually, these pictures, these images are descending images, symbols. And no matter how much you change it, you still cannot change the fact that these are pictures of certain deities and certain personalities who actually existed on this planet. So in yoga tradition, this aspect of Archanam is when your heart is connected to the heart of the divine. So for you, it could be Hanumanji, could be Shiva, it could be Krishna, it could be whoever it may be. When that connection is established, then whoever that deity is that your heart is connected to, they become self-manifested. And so someone may then say, oh, you're limiting the infinite divine. But if the divine is infinite, the divine can also be limited if it wants to. And that depends on the individual's deepest connection from the heart to the heart of the divine. I want to give you a small story. In the yoga text, there's many, many beautiful stories to elaborate on this topic of Archanam. So, because many things in this principle of Archanam will be difficult to comprehend because we're talking about real, tangible personalities that you can feel and you can worship and you can have a relationship with. So there is this family, they're Brahmanas, or they are ascetics. So families have certain deities that they worship. Some of you may be born Catholics, you worship Jesus. Some of you may be born different social and cultural and spiritual backgrounds, and you will be encouraged to worship a certain deity or a certain form of God, a certain form of the divine. So in this family of ascetics, their form of worship was Krishna. And so this mother and father, they had a little child, but they could not live the deities in the care of this little child, but yet at the same time, they were scheduled to go on a pilgrimage. So then they decided, okay, whatever it may be, we'll train our son to do the proper rituals and to make sure that we train him well so that when we leave, everything will be properly taken care of. So mother and father goes on a pilgrimage after training the child, and the child is only a little baby. And he was very clearly instructed that the food that our servant in the house, they all had people that came to help in the house. So the servant in the house, our chef, whatever she cooks, she will make a nice plate of offering. Please make sure to take this food and offer it to Krishna and make sure that the deity eats it. Because if he doesn't eat it, then it's not a good sign. And this boy was very small. And he was instructed in this way. So the chef organized a beautiful lunch offering for the deities, their family deities, who they worshipped as the Lord of their heart. So this young boy takes the offering plate and closes the door, because when the divine eats, then you're supposed to let them eat in peace, which is another big thing in the Vedic traditions, that we normally eat in silence and in deep gratitude. So normally we don't talk and we eat alone, and we just really, really, with every bite of morsel of food that we put in our mouth, we are, every chew, every bite, we are expressing our innermost gratitude. So this is how normally yogis honor their food. So similarly, the divine, this family's deity, Krishna, was also given space to eat peacefully. But this boy was very clearly instructed that you have to make sure that the deity, the statue of Krishna, actually eats the food. Otherwise, it's not a good sign. So this little boy, he takes the plate inside and he closes the door, and he starts ringing the bell, trying to get the attention of the statue of Krishna. And he was saying, "Please eat. My father told me that you have to eat, and you are taking care of my parents and everyone, and it is our duty to feed you because you're residing in our house. You're our guest. You're the Lord of our house. So please eat." And the statue was just not moving, not doing anything. And he just kept pleading and begging, and no response. Then from his heart, he started crying, like so deeply and sincerely, with like utter humility. He was praying, "Please, Krishna, my father and mother will be so upset if you don't eat. They will chastise me. They will not be happy with me, and I want to be a good son. Please, you are the Lord of our house. Please eat this food." It was made with so much love and devotion. So he kept praying with such sincerity that the deity, the divine, limited, infinite divine, came in this statue form and accepted the offerings of this child. And he went on his knees and he was eating all the food. And the boy was so happy. He says, "Okay, now I know. This is what my father has been doing for his lifetime, and then his father, and then his father. This is how it goes. This is what it means that, the residing God of our heart, he is actually fed and he eats our food." So he kept doing this every single day, and the deity just kept eating and kept eating and eating. And the parents finally come back after their pilgrimage, and they ask the cook, "So how is our son doing?" And the cook said, "Not quite sure what to tell you, but every time we give him a full plate, he goes inside and it comes out empty. And normally, when you offer a plate of food to the deities, you just show it to them and you offer it to them, and then you bring out the full plate of food. But this boy must be doing something very sneaky in there. He must be eating all the food when he takes it into the deity room. He must be eating all the food himself." So this is what the assumption of the cook was. And the cook had told the parents, he said, "This is what's been happening." And the parents got extremely upset. How can the food that we have made for the deities, the divine personality of our heart, be doing this, that my son is just taking his food and eating it inside of his room, inside of his dining room? So they were so upset. But they didn't want to chastise the son. So when they came back, the parents were supposed to take back the service, of worshiping their deities. But they said, son, we want you to continue the worship of doing the offerings to the deity of Krishna. And so the son said, yes, father, no problem. So the offering time comes at noon, and the child takes the offering. And the child is inside, and he's having this beautiful dialogue with his deity of Krishna. Krishna, you are the best. You're my best friend. You're so reliable. You're so infallible. You are so kind. And he starts talking about his beautiful relationship with his deity, like he was talking to his friend. And he says, I have brought the offering today, and this is what the menu is. So can you please eat this food? And the deity goes, sure. And the deity sits down and starts eating with him. And the mother and father, are observing all of these things outside. They think something's fishy is going on. So then they barge into the door. So they push open the door, and they barge in to see him eating. They thought that this is what was going on. And as soon as they barge in, they see that the deity is actually eating the food. And they're like, oh my God, we have never seen this. But the deities, they immediately froze. Why? Because it needs the topmost sincere, humble prayers of an innocent, loving heart in order to have that deep connection with the deity of their family. And so that deity, if you ever come to India with him, is still present. So this is not just a story. You can see the statue is actually sitting down to eat, and his hand is right there about to eat, and he freezes. So this interesting story from the yoga text explains the importance of sincere, loving offerings. And when there is a descending personality, because they're divine beings, and if we have that deep, sincere connection from our heart, then we will be able to have a practical, loving relationship of love between the worshiper and the worshipped, the finite and the infinite, the individual and the cosmic. And this was an example of this island of the heart that we're exploring, Archanam, which is worshiping the divine with sincere, humble attitude from our heart. And that infinite personality could actually manifest itself as a finite being and have a loving relationship and accept your offerings. And if we analyze, you'll notice that everything in this world is divine and is being provided to us. We don't have to do anything. As I was mentioning in one of our discussions before, that even the digestion, when we eat, are we doing the work, or someone else is doing the work for us? It is not us who's doing the work. We're simply putting the food in our mouth, but someone else is taking it down and breaking it down. And there's a unique system to break down the food and turn it into an energy where we can survive. So understanding that the divine is infinite, limitless, and yet can also be limited. If someone has $1 million, they also have a penny. It's not that they only just have $1 million. So the point to understand in this island of Archanam is the infinite and the finite potency of the divine. And just because the divine can be in a statue form does not mean the infinite has now become boxed in a statue form, and that's the only place we can see God. Many people think that only temples you can find God. You have to go to a temple to find God. No, you can find him anywhere and everywhere. It is a question of what kind of lens are we looking through. And so if we look through the proper lens of spiritual consciousness, we will be able to see the divine in everything, in every circumstance, and in every being, both animate and inanimate objects. So now we may say, okay, fair enough, but it's a little bit of a difficult thing to just suddenly accept all of this. That is just, this is how it works. Because we have seen that, material objects, they have a shelf life. And we have been deceived by material things and material objects in our lives. Just for example, and when we were playing kids, we play Monopoly. Anyone played Monopoly before? We get fake money. And as children, we start to think this is real money. And we take the Monopoly money to buy something. It doesn't work. And I can tell you a first-hand story of my life because I never had any money. I was growing up in a monastery. So somehow they snuck in a Monopoly game and I saw, $100 bill. And the minute I found $100 bill, I was like, oh my God, now I am rich. Because, when you're monks, you have no belongings. We have nothing. We never heard or saw money with our eyes because it's not something that we were connected to or in proximity of throughout most of my life as a monk. So when I first time saw a Monopoly money, $100 bill, and they had accidentally dropped it on the floor, when I saw that and I was holding on to that $100 bill, like I have now just become the richest man in the monastery. And so much so that I snuck out of the monastery with that $100 Monopoly bill. And I went with a few of my friends. I said, now I'm rich. I can buy you samosas, which is something that we all wanted. It was like a delicacy for the monks to have, this food. And so we snuck out, and I said, hey, how many samosas can I get with $100? And they did the math, and they said, it was almost like 500 samosas that you could get with $100 those days, So I was just completely overjoyed. 500 samosas. So for 500 days, I can have one samosa a day. With tamarind sauce. Oh my God, I was so happy. And so when we went to the store, and I said, can I please have one samosa for me and one samosa for each one of my two other friends, and please don't forget to give my change back. I want my change back. And so I gave him, and I was young, small, and I gave him my $100 bill. He looked at the $100 bill and he laughed. He says, you're so stupid. And I said, no, this is my $100 bill. Now you're trying to cheat me. I need my money changed back, and I need our samosas. And there was no way he could convince me that I didn't have $100. And he refused to give us the samosas, and he kept trying to tell me that this money that I had was fake money. And I said, no, it's not fake money. You just never seen $100 bill in your life. So that's why you just want to steal my money. And he would not give us the samosa. And I said, give me my $100 back. I'll go to another store and buy my 500 samosas. So this was a factual story of fake currency So there is so much fakeness that we have experienced in this life. Of course, I was disillusioned later on to realize that my $100 was actually not $100. And then I didn't know what was real money. So even when I finally got $100, where my adopted parents had given me, I did not believe that this was really $100 because I was already deceived with fake money. So in our lives, something very similar happens. We have been so deceived and cheated for so long. To understand that God is so limited that it's impossible for God to be in a tree, for God to be in a statue form, for God to be, in other places. He's only in his kingdom, wherever that may be. So when we hear the limitations of God, then it's very difficult, and we're so programmed to believe, to understand that God is infinite. In one of the yoga texts called Ishopanishad, the first verse, it explains, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam. It just talks about how God is complete, the divine is complete. And even when he takes something out of the complete, both becomes complete, and he always remains complete. So therefore, when we want to feel complete, when we want to be complete, we have to have the divine connection. And yoga explains the reason we practice yoga is to have that feeling of completeness, have that union. And that's what yoga means, to connect. And through the process of bhakti yoga, we will be able to find that unlimited self in our relationship with the divine. And someone may say, okay, sounds okay. I see your logic. But then how do we know it does exist? At the same time, when we try to understand theoretically, it's difficult. Intellectually, it's difficult. Theoretically, it's difficult because we have not had that experience. If someone were to tell you, let's blindfold you for a second, and you touch an elephant, every part of the elephant that you touch, you'll have a different description of it. Because we are not able to see things properly. Someone will look at the feet of the elephant and say, no, it's a tree trunk. Someone will touch the tail of a elephant, it will say something else. Someone will touch the ear of an elephant, will say, I don't know what this is, but it feels like it could be something. So every part of an elephant will be described differently because we have not seen. And we are looking at it from a very zoomed in perspective. And when we zoom out and we look at the world and how things work, you will see nothing but the hand of divine in every aspect of our lives. In fact, we are just simply walking around, going about our day, and everything is already being done. When we think, what is the process of thinking? Who is stimulating the thoughts? So in this way, we can work on our consciousness to understand that the divine being in a loving relationship can manifest as anything. And therefore in yoga traditions, you will see many people worship Ram, a form of Ram, Hanuman, Shiva, Krishna. In this way, we have different statues that we worship. And through the worship, through this sincere connection from our heart, those statues, those deities, they become live. That's one of the reasons we go to holy places, because there are deities that are being worshipped for hundreds and thousands of years. And the fact of reality is everyone by nature loves to worship idols, worship deities. Is there something called matinee idol? Old days? Is it called matinee or matinee? The idols, the kids worship, they keep in their homes of different statues of, say, Elvis. You find a little doll of Elvis, or Star Wars characters. Is that available, such things? So we all played with little dolls when we were growing up, or no? Yes, because by nature we like to have idols. We like to have statues. We can connect, and we actually even talk to them. I see little kids carrying these little Barbie dolls and little Star Wars characters, and they actually develop a relationship with them. Right? But that relationship remains on a material plane because the object is material, because the relationship is material. But in yoga tradition, what we do is we use matter to make beautiful statues, beautiful deities of different personalities described in the yoga text. And we start to have a spiritual relationship, and it becomes reciprocal. Like in the story of this Brahmana that I was giving you. So, thank you all so much. We'll cover more of this later on, because I will give you different ways, because there's tremendous amount of this emphasis given on this principle of Archanam, how important it is as part of our daily sadhana to worship the object of our heart. Because it's hard to just be inside, because it's because we're not able to get outside to see inside. So therefore, there is this descriptions in the yoga text how to make a statue of the object of your love and have a relationship with it.